Your absence was a storm that lingered just beyond the horizon. Silence can be deafening when it's calculated, and your retreat was never a sign of defeat. It was a coiled spring, a moment to gather strength, to watch, to wait. They assumed it meant the end, but endings are illusions for those who know how to begin again. The shadows you left behind whispered of your return, a return that would rewrite every assumption, every underestimation, every quiet laugh made at your expense. A comeback isn't an event, it's a reckoning. It's the realization that power lies not in never falling, but in rising again, sharper, stronger, more relentless than before. Those who mocked your absence failed to understand its purpose. It was not a retreat, but a reset, a moment to step outside the game and create new rules. When you stepped back into the light, it wasn't with the same hands that once held doubt. It was with fists clenched, ready to shatter expectations. They were playing checkers while you were learning chess. Every move they made was predictable. Every step part of a script you'd already read. Your silence gave them a stage, and they performed their roles as you studied their every weakness. A comeback isn't just a return, it's a revelation. When you emerged, it was not as the person who left, but as someone unrecognizable, untouchable, unreadable. You didn't just rejoin the game, you redefined it. The beauty of a comeback lies in its timing. Too soon, and it loses its impact. Too late, and it fades into irrelevance. But you timed it perfectly, stepping forward when they were least prepared, when their confidence was at its peak. The power of a comeback lies in the surprise, in the way it turns smugness into shock, certainty into chaos. Your return wasn't just unexpected, it was unanswerable. Every whisper of your name became a thunderclap. They had built their worlds in your absence, stacking fragile towers of confidence on the foundation of your perceived failure. But when you came back, those towers crumbled. The ground beneath them shifted, and they were left scrambling to find footing. Your comeback was not just an act of defiance, but a statement of inevitability. It said, I was always going to return, and there was nothing you could do to stop it. A comeback carries a weight that no starting point ever can. It speaks of endurance, of the kind of resilience that doesn't just survive the fire, but becomes it. You walked through that fire, and now the flames belong to you. Those who doubted your return had underestimated what the fire forged. When you came back, it was not as a shadow of your former self, but as a force of nature, something that could no longer be ignored. They had written you off, yet your comeback tore through their narratives like a blade. They were so focused on your absence that they failed to see the work being done in the quiet. Every step you took away from the spotlight was a step closer to something greater. And when you stepped back, it was with a roar that drowned out every whisper, every doubt. Your comeback wasn't just loud, it was deafening. The fear of a comeback lies in its unpredictability. Those who thought they understood you were blindsided by how little they actually knew. A comeback is never just a continuation, it's a transformation. You came back not to reclaim what was lost, but to claim something entirely new. They weren't prepared because there was no way to prepare for what you had become. Their strategies, their games, they all fell apart in the face of your evolution. There is a purity in the power of a comeback. It strips away the noise, the lies, the distractions, leaving only the undeniable reality of your presence. You returned not for validation, but for yourself. for the knowledge that you had overcome, adapted, risen. Those who doubted you became footnotes in a story far larger than their imaginations could grasp. Your comeback was not about them. It was about you. Your return wasn't a question or an apology. It was a declaration. It said that absence is not the same as disappearance, that silence is not the same as surrender. When you came back, it wasn't with the intention to prove something. It was to show something, that you are unbreakable. Your comeback is an apology to yourself, because all have remarkable potential, hidden beneath layers of mistreatment at others' hands that shapes our sense of self. A comeback isn't a spectacle for others. It's a mirror held up to the shadows of your own past. It's an act of redemption, not for the mistakes you made, but for the forgiveness you withheld from yourself. The world has a way of shaping people into smaller versions of who they could have been. Every harsh word, every dismissal, every cruel laugh becomes a layer of stone added to the cage around your potential. Your comeback isn't for them. It's for the person you used to be before the world tried to carve you into something less. Every mistreatment you endured added weight to the chains that bound you. Those moments shaped the voice in your head, the one that questioned your worth, that whispered that maybe you deserved less. The world took your light and twisted it into something unrecognizable. But the comeback, your comeback, is a vow to yourself. A promise that the layers of darkness others wrapped around you will not define you. You are more than what was done to you, and you rise not in spite of it, but because of it. Potential is a cruel thing. It hides beneath the surface, buried by years of compromise and conformity. It waits, patient but insistent, for the moment you remember who you are. Others shape your sense of self in their image, not out of care, but out of control. They tried to make you smaller because your potential terrified them. And for a time, you let it. But a comeback is the unearthing of that potential. It is the moment you claw your way out of the mold they pressed you into and remind yourself that the person beneath was always there, waiting. There's a certain poetry in using the mistreatment of others as fuel. What was meant to break you becomes the foundation on which you rebuild. Every word, every action meant to diminish you becomes part of the structure of your strength. Your comeback is not about erasing the past. It's about reshaping it, reclaiming it. You take the broken pieces and forge them into something indestructible. The irony is that those who sought to diminish you were the very architects of the fire that now burns within you. Apologies are rarely for others. They are for the wounds we allowed, for the moments we stayed silent, for the times we believed the lies. Your comeback is that apology, spoken not in words, but in action. It says, I see you to the person you were, the one who was mistreated, dismissed, overlooked. It's a way of reaching back through time to lift that version of yourself out of the ashes and into the light. It's a way of saying, I will never let you feel that small again. Mistreatment by others often leaves a residue, a stain on how you see yourself. You start to believe the narrative handed to you, a story written by those who never truly saw you. Your comeback rewrites that story. It tears out the pages they wrote and replaces them with your own. It says, this is who I am, not who you tried to make me. And as you rise, you realize that their words, their actions, their attempts to define you hold no power anymore. Your story is yours alone. The potential that lies buried beneath mistreatment is often the most remarkable. It grows quietly, out of sight, waiting for the moment it can burst free. Your comeback is the release of that potential, the shattering of the barriers others built around it. It is an apology for every time you doubted yourself, every time you let their voices drown out your own. It's a declaration that the version of you they feared was real, and it's here to stay. Each step you take in your comeback is a reclamation of what was stolen. Your confidence, your strength, your light. These are not gifts others gave you. They were always yours, hidden beneath layers of mistreatment and self-doubt. The world tried to bury them, but they grew anyway. And now, as you rise, you reclaim them piece by piece. Your comeback is not just a return, it is a revolution. It is a refusal to be defined by what was done to you. The most powerful part of a comeback is the realization that the person you were waiting for was always you. Others can shape your sense of self, but they cannot define it. That power lies solely within you. Your comeback is an apology to yourself for forgetting that, for allowing the voices of others to drown out your own. It's a reminder that your potential is limitless, that your strength is boundless, and that your worth is untouchable. Success is not built on success. It's built on failure. It's built on frustration. Sometimes it's built on catastrophe. Failure is a forge, shaping those who dare to rise again. Success without struggle is a hollow crown, a throne built on sand. But when failure fuels you, every misstep becomes a stepping stone, every wound a mark of resilience. Frustration sharpens the edges of ambition, while catastrophe burns away the illusions, leaving only the raw truth of who you are. It is within that destruction that the foundation of real success is laid, not on smooth surfaces, but on the jagged edges of adversity. Frustration is the fire that refuses to let you rest. It gnaws at your complacency, reminding you that growth is born from discomfort. Each frustration is a lesson, a whisper that says, "This isn't enough. You can be more." The path to success isn't lined with easy victories. It's paved with moments that threaten to break you. Yet, it is in those moments that the strongest foundations are built. Frustration is not your enemy. It's your greatest ally, demanding that you push beyond your limits. Catastrophe is where the weak are separated from the relentless. When everything crumbles, when the world turns its back, it's easy to sink into despair. But catastrophe is not an end. It's a beginning, a crucible that burns away the unnecessary, leaving only what truly matters. Success born from catastrophe is unshakable because it knows the depths of despair and chooses to rise anyway. Catastrophe isn't your downfall, it's your proving ground. Success built on failure carries a weight that can't be replicated. Each scar tells a story, each stumble a lesson etched into the fabric of who you've become. Failure forces you to confront yourself, to face the weaknesses you'd rather ignore. It demands growth, transformation, evolution. And when you rise from failure, you rise with a strength that can't be taken away. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's its foundation, the soil from which greatness grows. The frustration of setbacks is a relentless teacher. It pushes you to question everything, to strip away the superficial and find the core of your purpose. Success that comes too easily breeds complacency, while frustration breeds innovation. It forces you to adapt, to find new ways forward when the old ones collapse. Frustration isn't an obstacle. It's a gift, a challenge that asks, how far are you willing to go? And for those who endure, the answer is always further. Catastrophe strips away the facade of control, leaving you bare before your own potential. It shatters illusions and forces you to rebuild, stronger and wiser than before. Those who fear catastrophe never taste true success, for they never risk enough to grow. Success born from catastrophe carries a depth that others cannot comprehend. It's not built on safety nets or guarantees. It's built on the ashes of everything that came before. Failure humbles you, but it also empowers you. It reminds you that success isn't handed out. It's earned through grit, determination, and a refusal to quit. Each failure is a reminder that you're trying, that you're moving, that you're alive. The world may mock failure, but those who have tasted it know its value. Success built on failure doesn't just shine, it burns. A fire fueled by every moment you refused to stay down. Frustration challenges your patience, your perseverance, your very will to continue. It whispers that the easiest path is to stop, to settle, to accept mediocrity. But those who listen to frustration's true message hear something different. An invitation to rise, to push harder, to demand more of yourself. Frustration is the catalyst for change, the force that turns potential into reality. Without it, success is a shadow of what it could be. Catastrophe may seem like the end, but it's a doorway to something greater. It clears the slate, removes the distractions, and forces you to focus on what truly matters. Success built on catastrophe carries a clarity, a purity that others envy but cannot replicate. It's not just about overcoming adversity, it's about embracing it, letting it refine you into something unbreakable. Catastrophe doesn't destroy you, it reveals you. People who want to take advantage of you will always do their best to keep you unaware of your own worth. And when you step away to claim your glory, it will be the best revenge ever. Manipulation thrives in shadows. Those who seek to control you know that the moment you see your own worth, their grip weakens. Their strategy is simple yet insidious. Keep you doubting, questioning, shrinking. They plant seeds of insecurity, water them with subtle slights and veiled insults, and watch as you begin to wilt under the weight of self-doubt. The greatest weapon of manipulators is not their strength, but your uncertainty. But the moment you step away, the game changes. Stepping away is not surrender, it's strategy. It's the moment you strip them of the power they thought they had over you. Manipulators rely on your proximity, on the idea that they can whisper doubts into your ear whenever they please. By stepping away, you silence their voice and amplify your own. It is not an act of rebellion, but of reclamation. You aren't leaving them behind. You're leaving behind the version of yourself that needed their approval. Glory is not found in revenge, but in reclamation. When you claim your worth, you're not just taking back what was stolen. You're showing that their attempts to dim your light have failed. The best revenge is not in retaliation, but in rising so far above them that their existence becomes irrelevant. Stepping into your glory is the ultimate act of defiance. It's a declaration that your worth was never theirs to define. Manipulators fear one thing above all: exposure. They work in whispers, in shadows, in the quiet moments when you doubt yourself. By stepping into your glory, you force them into the light, where their schemes are laid bare. They wanted you to stay small, to remain a puppet in their game. But when you walk away, when you claim your worth, you take their power and turn it into your weapon. The best revenge isn't in hurting them, it's in outgrowing them. Your worth was never lost, It was hidden, buried beneath layers of doubt and mistreatment. Manipulators tried to keep it there, to convince you it wasn't worth uncovering. But worth has a way of shining through, no matter how deeply it's buried. The moment you step away, you begin to uncover it, to polish it until it becomes a beacon. And when it shines, it blinds those who tried to extinguish it. Walking away is not about leaving them behind. It's about finding yourself ahead. It's about realizing that your worth is not tied to their approval, that your value is inherent and untouchable. Manipulators want you to believe that leaving means losing, but the truth is quite the opposite. Leaving means gaining freedom, gaining strength, gaining the clarity to see your own potential. And with each step you take, their power over you fades. Glory isn't something they can give or take. It's something you claim. Manipulators wanted you to beg for it, to believe that they held the key. But the key was always yours. Walking away isn't just an act of strength. It's an act of wisdom. It's the realization that your worth was never in their hands. And when you step into your glory, it becomes a victory they can neither diminish nor ignore. Revenge, when done right, is not about inflicting pain. It's about thriving. Manipulators wanted you to fail, to crumble under the weight of their control. Thriving is the ultimate revenge because it shows that their efforts were for nothing. It's a reminder that no matter how hard they tried, they could not break you. Walking away and finding your glory is not just a personal triumph. It's a statement to the world that you cannot be controlled. Manipulators play the long game, planting doubts and watching as you struggle under their weight. But their arrogance blinds them to one crucial fact: resilience. They don't see the strength building beneath the surface, the determination growing with every attempt they make to keep you small. And when you rise, when you step into your glory, it is not just a shock, it's a reckoning. Their games collapse under the weight of your success. Failure isn't a wall, it's a door. For those who have the audacity to keep pushing, failure doesn't signify the end, but a beginning. A beginning that strips away the weak and leaves only the determined. Success isn't a straight path, but a jagged climb, one that tests every ounce of willpower and resilience. Each failure whispers the same question: do you have what it takes to rise again? And every time you rise, the answer is louder, more certain, more unstoppable. Enthusiasm is the weapon that breaks failure's grip. It's the fire that burns when the world expects you to extinguish. Failure can bruise the ego and drain the spirit, but enthusiasm rebuilds it stronger. While others crumble under the weight of defeat, you stand, fueled not by the absence of setbacks, but by the thrill of what lies beyond them. Success is born not from avoiding failure, but from embracing it, from turning each misstep into momentum. Each failure carves deeper grooves into your character, shaping a version of yourself that can withstand storms. Those who fear failure build their lives in shallow waters, afraid of the depths where greatness is forged. But you understand that failure is not the enemy. It's the architect of strength. Each failure adds another layer of armor, another reason to push forward, until no storm can shake the foundation of who you become. The world mocks enthusiasm in the face of failure, mistaking it for delusion. But those who laugh are those who have never tasted true resilience. They don't understand that enthusiasm isn't a denial of reality. It's a refusal to surrender to it. Every failure feeds your fire, turning doubt into fuel and hesitation into resolve. While others retreat, you press forward, knowing that success lies not in avoiding the fall, but in rising every time.